Hey guys, I'm Matthew. I'm stuck in a very bad situation and I have no idea what I should do. My brother and his wife have completely betrayed my trust and are trying to get away from paying me back. Let me explain what exactly happened from the start. I live happily with my wife and children, and I work for a construction company. As my wife and I both work, we rarely have financial trouble. If we bought something crazy expensive, we would have financial issues. We're not rich, but we do handle our money pretty well. Everything started last month when me and my wife decided that we needed to remodel certain parts of our house, and it looks like they've gotten a little bit older, right? Since there were a lot of things we needed to change, we figured it was going to cost us a pretty penny. Even though we had been using our money well for a long time, we still could not cover the entire project with just our income. We had other things we needed to pay for as well, and we also could not take any money out of our savings, as we were trying to figure out what we could do. I remembered the money that I had given to my brother. Let me tell you a bit about him first. So, my brother does not live very far from me, and he's extremely lazy and unserious. He's been like this his whole life, and no matter how much advice I gave him, it never worked. He only works when it's convenient for him and probably barely makes enough for him and his wife. The thing is, he's not completely at fault for being like this because I also blame my parents for making him like it. Can you believe they still pay him money monthly? Due to which he doesn't even feel the need to consistently work. No matter how he is, I've always loved my brother and wanted the best for him. That's exactly why I asked him several times to stop taking my parents' money to help him become a better, independent person. Of course he didn't listen, and neither did my parents when I asked him to stop pampering him, so I just stopped trying. Also, when he got married and moved into a new house, I thought that he would finally change, but he did not. He got a wife who was happy with him remaining how he was, and that kind of guaranteed that he was never going to change. The reason I tried so hard is because I feel like he could do so much more if he tried. I used to believe that if he stepped out of our parents' shadow, he could become a much better person, but he never listened. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why did I give money to a brother like that? Well, because he needed it, and because I believed he was still the same brother that I'd grown up with. I always believed that no matter what kind of person he becomes, he'll always look after his family like all of us have done. So, continuing the story, about a year ago, my brother called me and told me that he needed $10,000. He said it's an emergency with his wife's family, and he had no one else to ask. For the reasons I already mentioned, and because I had some extra money laying around, I decided to give it to him. I said he did not even have to return the money unless and until I asked. He knew that I would only ask if I truly needed it, and that would be really rare. So he happily took the money, and a year later I was in need of some more money. And I decided that I should ask him to pay me back. I expected him not to be able to give me the money as soon as I asked, so I wanted to give him a little time before informing him in advance. So I texted him telling him that I needed the money back and that it could take a week or two to pay me back. When he did not reply after an entire day, I called him, but he did not answer. I also called his wife, but did not get any answers either. I thought that it was a little weird, and after a few days I decided that I should pay them a visit. So I showed up at their place and found both my brother and his wife there. They told me that both of them were a little busy with work and could not find the time to call me. I said it's okay, and told my brother about my situation and about the money. I expected him to ask me for a few more days or even a week to collect the money. But what he said next, guys, oh boy, it really threw me for a loop. As soon as I mentioned the money, both of them looked dumbfounded at me. My brother, he looked surprised and said, "What money?" I thought his brain might not be working right that morning and reminded him about how I had given him $10,000. Both he and his wife immediately denied having any recollection of taking money from me, and I kept thinking that this was some sick joke. But it turned out that they were actually serious. They seriously wanted me to think that they had no idea about the money I had given directly to them. I sincerely asked my brother and his wife to drop the act, and told them that there had to be a very good reason for them to make a joke this bad. But they just kept repeating that they had no idea what I was talking about, and that they had not taken any money from me at all. The longer I spoke to them, the angrier I got because what they were doing was very stupid. They seriously thought that they could make me believe that I'd probably hallucinated giving my brother $10,000? Well, since the conversation was going nowhere at this rate, I told my brother that I was only going to ask him one last time. I told him that if he did not have the money, I would understand, but if he said that he had no idea once again, I would not take that lightly. With the most sincere face, he told me that there's no reason for him not to return the money that I've given him, but he had not taken any. Well, you know what? I had nothing more to say to him, so I left. After I came back, I called my brother once because I didn't want to jump directly to the conclusion that he did not want to pay me back. So I called him at night and asked him if this was all an act because his wife has no idea. What I was thinking was that my brother had not even told his wife about the money and acted like he didn't know because he didn't want her to know. You know, it's a good theory, but he immediately shot it down and said that he actually had no idea. This really hurt, because it meant that my brother had truly turned into the worst person. It's really weird how much our love affects our decisions, because even after all this, I still wanted to give him one last chance. He was the little brother I grew up with and loved, so I called him once again and gave him one last chance. I told him that he could pay me in a few months, but lying was not an option he needed to take. But he kept denying it and started calling me crazy when I told him not to do this, so after that I told my wife what just happened, and she could not believe that they were doing this to me. She gave me the idea that I should probably talk to my parents since they would listen to me though. I thought this was pretty good of an idea, and decided to give it a good old try. After about a week, I went to my parents' house to complain about what my brother was doing. So, I showed up at my parents' house, and the first thing I noticed was that their behavior towards me was a bit, different. They didn't seem as happy as they normally would be to see me. At this time, I shrugged it off, believing this was just imagination, but I was oh so very wrong. As soon as I started telling them my problem, it was apparent that they had already spoken to my brother, and I just asked them if they did. And they said that my brother came here yesterday, so I asked them to hear my side too. And they did, but it did not look like they were really believing me. I told them everything, but you know what happened and how my brother was lying to save himself from paying it back, but after hearing me out, they straight up asked me if I was in need of some kind of money. They told me that they would help me if I was struggling, and you know what? This really got to me. It annoyed me, but I still kept my cool and told them that the only money I needed was from my brother. I told them that my brother was just using them to save himself from me, but they didn't listen. All they kept saying was that he could never do something like this, and I also said that it was hard to believe. But I did not have any other reason to blame him, and I was doing okay financially. And this was just something I needed for an extra expense. I tried my best to explain to them that he was also playing them, but obviously, like everything else, they quickly dismissed it. Instead of believing me, they asked me to stop trying to take my brother's money. They also asked me to stop harassing him, claiming that he had no idea about the money, and offered to help me if my financial situation was bad. Well, after realizing that trying to explain myself was, just not going to work. So I decided to leave and just handle this by myself, and as I was leaving, my parents once again warned me to stop asking my brother for money, and I told them that in a time they would realize the truth and come to regret what they did. Well, you know what? That was last week. After thinking for a week, I've come to the conclusion that I need to teach my brother a lesson, but I don't want to cause him any real trouble. I want him to admit to taking my money and lying when I asked for it back, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. I can threaten legal action, but I think he'll quickly realize that I'm actually not going to do it, since I don't want him to get in trouble. I also have another way that I can get my money back, but I don't want to do it. So this is where I'm stuck. If you guys have any ideas for what I should do, please let me know down below. What's up guys, Mr. Reddito here. I found two very interesting comments in the original post, so let's check out the first one from Dreeny Dynamo, saying, OP, I believe that there might be an actual reason behind your brother doing all this. From what I can understand, you have always helped your brother, and there's no real reason for him to do this. I think that he probably is in debt and has not told his wife or something like that, or it could be that his wife is making him do this. Although you've tried to ask and failed to get him to say anything, I think you should at least give it another go. You should talk to him in person, and when he's done, even after that he refuses to elaborate on his situation, then you can think about forcing him to admit or even pay for it. That's my 2 cents. Comment number 2 by Celestial Cypher 03. I think your brother is trying to play you as a fool. You've already given him enough chances and have tried your best, and I think that you should stop hesitating and actually do something about it. Just like your parents, your brother is also using the love you have for him as a defense. You said it yourself that he knows you will not do anything serious to him. So I say that you should teach him a lesson. You know, if you let this go, your brother will just continue to do stuff like this until he lands in bigger trouble than he would have been with you. So, my opinion, if you want it, is that you should somehow get him to admit knowing about the money or collect some proof if you have any and expose him to your parents. Update number 1. If you're enjoying today's story, please hit that like button. It's been a month since my original post, and let me tell you everything that's happened. I spent the almost entirety of a week thinking and discussing with my wife what I should do in this situation. She wanted me to leave, since after a few months we would have enough money to remodel the house and we weren't struggling financially. She made the point that fighting for that money was only straining the relationship that I had with my parents. According to her, no matter what the reason was behind my brother doing this, I did not look like he would easily admit to taking my money and making his own. It might just destroy my relationship with all of them, and she also said that it looked like my brother needed the money. Or he would have to just agree to pay me back. I told her that I agreed with many of her points, but the situation now was not about the money, it was about him trying to get away from paying me back. And not only that, but also trying to lie his way out of this by using our parents. I explained to her that I might have no idea why he's actually doing this, but I know for sure that one reason behind it is that he thinks that I'll let him go. He surely believes that he can get away with this because of how our parents treat him and how much I care about him. She once again raised the question of what if he has a money problem, and I told her that, well, if he did, he should come to me like a man. If he had asked once to forget asking him to pay back, I would have given him more money myself, but that's simply not the case. Even after a week of debating back and forth, me and my wife could not find a solution to the problem. I was stuck because if I tried to force my brother to pay it, it would make me the bad person in my family since I don't have much proof of paying him. This also depends on the fact that he agreeing to pay me back in the first place, which I'm pretty sure that he'll never do. And the other option was letting him get away with all of this, which I was not about to be a part of. Throughout all of this, I kept texting my brother, asking him to meet me alone, in person, but he kept refusing, so I also had bank details on me withdrawing the said amount of money. But when I sent him that, he said that those would prove nothing. The only thing holding me back now was the fact that I still believed in the corner of my heart that he was going through some problems. I kept telling myself that he wasn't doing this voluntarily, but all of that went away when my friend called a few days ago. So, a few days ago, one of my friends and coworkers who knows what's going on called and told me something shocking. He said that my brother and his wife were having the time of their lives in a club nearby. I didn't believe him and asked him to send me a picture, and he did. He sent me a few photos and a video of them drinking and partying. They were actually drinking something expensive from a bottle. This completely ruled out any theories I had about them being financially unstable and left the only possibility that we were being played. I was busy these few days and I have not had the time to confront him, but tomorrow I am free. So, I'm going to visit him at his work and give him one of those last chances to explain everything, and I might even treat him with legal action. If he apologizes and explains, then you know what? I'll go ahead and listen. But if not, he'll surely come to regret this. What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. So, in my opinion, Matthew's situation sounds really tough. It's clear that he's been trying his best to handle the situation with his brother in a fair, reasonable way. His wife seems to have some good points about not letting the issue strain the relationship, but it's understandable that Matthew wants his brother to own up to what he did. I mean, I don't understand how their parents can trust their child so much without listening to the other one. Hopefully, they can find a resolution that does not cause more harm to family. Guys, update number 2 is coming at you right now, and if you're new to the channel, take a second, hit that subscribe button, and here is update number 2. So, I confronted my brother that day before yesterday, and unfortunately, he has left me absolutely no choice. Let me first explain what exactly happened, you see. So, I gave him a surprise visit at his work and waited until he was free to talk. As soon as he saw me waiting for him, I could see the surprise in his eyes, but he quickly changed his expression. He asked me, "Why the heck am I here?" And I told him that, "Well, I guess you already know, buddy." Well, he acted like he did not understand until I told him to stop pretending and give me back my money. He said that he had already chosen to forget about the issue since he had not done anything and I was being absolutely delusional. So I told him that even with the minimal evidence, I could still prove that he took my money, but I still wanted to give him a chance to give it back himself. I told him this was his last chance, and if he kept up this bad lie, it would not end well for him. He got a little mad when I threatened him, and he said confidently that he had never taken any money from me, and that I should leave him be from now on. He tried to guilt-trip me by saying, "How could I do this to my own brother?" I told him that I didn't care what a lying person like him thought, and told him that I would get the money on my own one way or another. Guys, after I calmed down a bit, I told him that he could tell me if there was any problem or an actual good reason behind this, please. I said that I'd try my best to understand and even offered to help him if he was in a deep mess. But just like the last time, he denied having any problems and told me that I was the only problem in his life. I also told him to tell me if he was struggling with money and maybe could not pay, I don't know, or if his wife had done something. But he said that he was doing very well financially. He said that he could easily afford to pay me $10,000 and was not doing so because he had not taken any money. He then said that instead of trying to take money from him, if I had just asked him to lend me the amount, he would have happily given it to me. Well, like every other conversation with my brother, this was also running in circles. So I just told him that I was going to pursue legal action. He said that I could do whatever I wanted, but no matter what, I would not be able to prove a thing. I told him that he was doing something so wrong, and he was soon going to realize why he should not have messed with me. I explained to him that I would not have to prove anything, and that he himself would admit to this, and he just laughed. After that, I just left because I didn't want to cause any more of a scene. I'll update you guys soon enough. Update number 3. So, a few days ago, after the not-so-friendly conversation with my brother, my parents invited me to visit them, saying they had somewhere serious that they wanted to discuss. I didn't want to go since I believed that they were about to scold me some more for not leaving my brother alone. My wife convinced me to go, saying that they might have figured out something about my brother and that they might support me. Well, guess what? Unfortunately, I was right. My parents really invited me to their home to only tell me that they were disappointed in me and that they didn't want to speak to me anymore. Well, I tried explaining, so I didn't really explain anything to them. I just said that they should do what they think is right. But I also told them that I would do what I believe is right as well. So, a few days after that, my brother and his wife also showed up at my office, just to warn and stop threatening them. They made a huge scene claiming that I was harassing them for money that they never even saw. They were trying to turn my coworkers against me and paint me in a bad light. It might have worked in another workspace, but I'm fortunate enough to work with people who are not only my coworkers, but also my close friends. So, nobody really believed them, and it was just embarrassing for me. They finished their sob story and left when I told them that I would stop asking them for my money because I was going to stop it. Well, after taking a lot of time to decide, I finally made the decision that no matter how much I care about him, my brother deserves the worst, and that's what I'm going to do to him. What he has never realized, and obviously I've never told him, is that the house that they live in is mine. By that I mean that I actually own the house that they live in. I know what you're thinking. How could they not know whose house they live in? Well, there's a small story behind it, see. So when my brother was getting married a few years ago, I had recently purchased a house for a very good price. I hadn't told anybody, so obviously he didn't know, and I had originally planned on reworking the house a little and selling it or giving it for rent to earn passive income. But as I found out that my brother was getting married and he was starting a new journey, I figured a house would be the best gift. I mean, don't take me wrong. I only bought the house because it was a deal I simply could not reject, and I knew that I would not have much time to work on it. So it wasn't as much of a loss for me since I wasn't planning on doing much with it at the moment. At the time, I gave him the house because I wanted him to start fresh and become his own person. But he really disappointed me. I really believed in him, and I looked at what I got in return. The reason he doesn't know is that I didn't want him to feel like he was in some sort of debt, at the start of his new life. So I asked my parents to pretend that the house was theirs and tell my brother that he could go ahead and live there as long as he wanted. My brother agreed and moved in, but he never changed into the person that I hoped that he would. Instead, he probably became worse than the person he ever could be. That is why I believe it's justified that I kick him out of the house, and I think it's clear that this is the last thing that I wanted to do. But they have left me absolutely no choice. So tomorrow, I'm going to his place and telling him to get out. Update number 4. I really feel bad for my brother, but all of this is completely and only his fault. So I think it's pretty clear that I was very mad at my brother during my last update, and immediately the next day I showed up at his home. My wife tried her best to convince me not to do this, but my brother had enough. Both he and his wife were so mad that I decided to show up, even after I told them that I would quit. I asked him to shut up and listen to me since I had something important to say. Firstly, I explained to my brother why what he did hurt me and that I tried my best to not do this. As I was talking, it did not seem like both of them cared about what was being said until I made my point. I said that due to all the things that he's done, I believe that it was fair to kick him out of the house. Both of them seemed pretty surprised by what I said and started laughing after I finished speaking. My brother, well, he happily said that I could try to kick him out, but I would never be able to convince our parents. He told me that this was the last time he was entertaining my nonsense, and if I threatened him again, he would file a restraining order against me. I didn't say anything else, and I left when he asked me to leave his property, and I simply came back home and sent them an eviction notice the next day. The notice asked them to leave my property within a week's time as soon as possible because I didn't want them there at all anymore. I guess even before they received the notice, my brother spoke with my parents to confirm, because they texted asking me what I did. I didn't reply because they were the ones who told me that they would not be speaking to me. Well, guys, after a few hours, they called me and asked me to stop doing these stupid things. I told them that they would not understand and that I wanted them to stay out of this. They even threatened to cut me off, guys. Can you believe that? And I just told them go ahead. But there was nothing that they could do to stop me. They tried to make excuse after excuse for my brother, and I tried their best just to convince, to take my decision back. I just assumed my brother had asked them to do this, but I made it crystal clear that I was not going to listen to them. Since our parents could do nothing, I'm waiting to see what my brother is going to do next. Update number 5. Guys, this is the final update of the story. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and this will most probably be my last one because I don't see anything more happening with my brother after this. Immediately the next day after I sent them the eviction notice, my brother showed up at my house to talk. He texted and called me several times, but I kept ignoring him because I wanted him to personally come to my house. So he did, and it was apparent that his demeanor had immediately changed. He looked very stressed, very apologetic, and he looked like he had not slept the night before. He came in and immediately apologized for his behavior towards me, telling me that what he tried to do to me was wrong. I asked him to explain what he meant as I did not understand what he was referencing, and with great difficulty he managed to tell the truth. For the first time since I gave him the money, he finally admitted to taking it. He explained that he's taken money from me, and when I asked him to return it, he tried to play dumb. He and his wife believed that they could get away from paying if they just claimed they had no idea. And since they were sure our parents would support them, I asked him what the use of all this was, since he was not financially unstable, and he just said that it was because of greed. Then he said that now he had to come to the realization that all of it was wrong, and because of me he had changed into a better person. Although I would have believed that if he learned a lesson, what I've realized during this past month is that my brother is never going to change. After he finished explaining, he told me that he would pay me back immediately and was hoping that I would not kick him out. I told him that I was sorry and that I had already given him enough chances to change, but he refused. I was going through my initial plan and asked him to move out of the house as soon as possible. Well, this made him angry, and he started telling me that it wasn't fair. I told him that what he tried to do wasn't fair, and I gave him several chances, but he showed me who he truly was. He said that he would not go down so easy as he still had his parents' support and would use them to make me reverse the decision. Well, as soon as he said that, I told him that he did not have that option anymore. Well, then I showed him that I was the one on a video call with my parents, and they had heard and seen everything that he said and did. I'd called them and asked them to sit tight and watch to make sure that they saw how their son actually was. They looked disappointed, they looked angry, and they cut the call without saying anything, which I assume was a bad thing for my brother. Immediately after that, he left angry without saying another word. Well, guys, 2 days later, my brother and his wife showed up at my home and begged me to forgive them, and they also brought the entire amount of money that they owed. But I asked them, you know what? Keep it. I told them that I had not given them any money like they said, but they were living in my house, which I needed now. They tried to beg me multiple times and even came to my office, but I stood my ground. A few days later, they had to empty their house and they went somewhere else. I did and do feel bad about this, and my wife still thinks what I did was wrong. It's been a week since then, and I'm happy to say that I've received no word from my brother or his wife. My parents also told me that they have cut him off, and from now on, he won't be getting any help from them. Although I don't want to think about him, I do hope that this has taught him a good lesson and that he tries to do better from now on. I mean, come on. What do you guys think? What would you have done?